Hello, everybody, and welcome to this all-new episode of the Northern Virginia Sports Report. I'm your host, Monica Moore, and we have a great show for you tonight. As always, I'm delighted to be joined in the studio by Paul Frummelt from the Fairfax County Times. So thanks so much for joining us, Paul. And before we jump into everything, we want to thank the folks that help make our program possible. First of all, our good friends at CCI Screen Printing for all of your screen printing needs. Also, special thanks to Craig Sturbutzel for all the fantastic photos that he's provided for us throughout the season. And special thanks to our good friend Dan Sousa for all the photos and content that he provides each and every week. Also, special thanks to Triple Edge Lacrosse for sponsoring our lacrosse segment that you'll be seeing all spring. Don't forget that you can get copies of this program at www.pressboxvideo.com. And you can check out highlights, interviews, video content, and more on our webpage. Don't forget to become a fan of the Fairfax Sports Network on our Facebook page, and please do send us any comments, suggestions, or story ideas that you have. Well, as always, we're going to start out with a couple of news and notes from around the region. Lots to report. First of all, congratulations to Loudoun County's Brantley Kushner. Of course, he is a golf standout over at Loudoun County, and he's been selected to participate in the Junior Euro Cup in Scotland this summer. So a great honor for Brantley to go and represent not only this area, but the United States. Some coaching news to talk about. Speaking of Loudoun County, congratulations to Ryan Barden, who will be leaving Loudoun County to go and be the head wrestling coach over at Tuscarora. So he'll be starting up that program over there. A great opportunity for Ryan Barden. And congratulations to Mike Gems, who is the new head coach of the Potomac Falls football program. He is known for having pass-oriented offenses and for development of quarterbacks, so people are very excited about having him come into the area and coach over at Potomac Falls. Well, one big story that we've been talking about for the past couple of weeks and really for the past couple of years have been the proposed budget cuts that have been discussed in both Fairfax County and in Loudoun County. And so good news to report for the sports fans out there that Loudoun County has decided not to cut the freshman sports and the JV lacrosse team. So a lot of the sports, the athletes very excited about that news that was announced last week. Also, lastly, we do want to mention that the Parkview softball program will be honoring their 1989 and 1990 state championship teams before their game this Friday. And so for those of you involved with the Parkview softball program, a good opportunity to go out and catch up with former teammates. All right, well, let's jump into our Triple Edge Lacrosse segment, and we are delighted to be joined on the phone by Coach Scott Setter of the West Springfield Boys Lacrosse Program. Coach, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can. How are you doing?
Good, thanks. Thanks so much for joining us. Obviously, your program is having a great year so far, and I guess a lot of people would say you certainly have the bullseye on your back, but can you talk a little bit, obviously being undefeated, what you think your team is doing well so far this season and what things you're still looking to improve on?
Well, we came into the season knowing that we had a lot of returning players from last year, and we had some young guys from our JV team last year that we thought we could step in and fill some of those spots that were really needed. We knew goalie at the beginning of this year was going to be one of our maybe spots that people were going to focus in on, but our goalie from last year has really stepped in. Our JV goalie from last year has really stepped in and solidified that position. Right now, we feel like we're playing well on both sides of the field, but really want to get better in our transition offense and our clearing defense. I mean, every day, every team can say there's something new we want to work on, and we just try to focus one day at a time, get a little bit better for the end of the season.
Coach, you're right in the middle of your district schedule. You beat Annandale 8-5 earlier in the month, and you have W.T. Woodson coming up. Can you talk about how tough the Patriot District is this year?
Yeah, we knew coming in, we thought that our district was going to probably be the strongest district in the region, which is not usually the case with the Liberty and Concord out there. But we knew Annandale's young. Last year they were basically a soft team last year, and now it's mostly a junior team, and we knew they were going to be strong. They played us real tough last year. Woodson obviously coming into the district this year is going to bring some new battles into our district, and Lee and Lake Braddock are always tough to play. So we just prepare for each game every day, and Woodson on this Friday, Woodson's the last team that beat us, and they knocked us out of the regional tournament last year. So I think our guys are going to be ready for this game on Friday, and we've been looking forward to it for a long time.
Well, Coach, coming into the season, I know one thing that people were talking a lot about was your defense, some high expectations, and certainly you have an experienced crew back there. Can you talk a little bit about those players and how you've seen them evolve over the years to become such a dominant force back there?
Absolutely. We have 4 seniors that lead our defense, both at the close and at LSM, and they kind of rotate through different positions based on the matchups of that week. We also have some young guys that have stepped in and fill in, especially at the LSM position. And they've been playing together for 4 years now. A lot of them played in SYC together and just kind of grow to understand how each other plays. They're very different. You could take each one individually, and I could tell you 10 ways they're different than the other 2. But that makes them a great combination out in the field. We can match up for speedy attackmen. We can match up with the the powerful attackmen. And it really helps us with matching up. And they know when each other's going to slide and then cover each other's backs when they're going to do different kinds of checks and those types of things. So they work really well together, and it helps balance out the whole defense.
We have a very balanced team. We just talked about the defense. What about the offense? What makes players like Hunter and Eric so tough to defend?
Hunter and Eric have been playing together for so long. They're a crew that came up through the SYC. I think they've been playing together since they've been in 3rd grade. So just like being on the basketball court or anything else, once you get that chemistry down, you know when the defender turns his helmet, you know when Hunter's going to go back door, and Eric knows when he's going to be there. So those guys have really kind of solidified our offense, and we have other guys that have kind of joined in. We have 5 guys on our team that have 10 or more goals. So we're trying to spread the ball around as much as possible. You know, Eric and Hunter are going to get their share of the heavy defense and the early slides and those types of things. So we're trying to make sure we have other guys that can balance out our offense as much as possible.
Coach, I know you guys hosted a spring break tournament this year that really had a lot of talent competing, and I know how important those opportunities are and to get those extra games in during the season. Can you talk a little bit about what that experience was like and really what the players got to take away from that?
We think it's a huge benefit for our team. We got to bring in, like you said, many of the top teams, the northern region and the northwest region, and also St. Albans, to have a private school in there, which solidified the entire tournament. It's great for us. We had Madison and Loudoun Valley both threw things at us that we weren't expecting, so they scouted us real well, and that helps out our team for when we get down to this part of the season and when we get to the districts, that we can get better from learning from those games. I think every coach will tell you those games don't really matter as far as winning or losing, but it's what you can take from those games that's important. And I think everybody felt like they got very, very good games in throughout that spring tournament. The weather cooperated a little bit better than last year, so it's fun. It's fun having all those teams there. The turf helps out, makes it a little bit easier for us to host those types of things, and it's fun showcasing the talent that we have here in Northern Virginia for lacrosse.
Coach, a lot of expectations going into this season, and right now you guys are on a roll, 9-0. How do you keep your players level-headed and focused during this time?
It comes from the senior leadership. We have 15 seniors on the team. They've been through it before. Last year we had a real successful season. We went undefeated through the Patriot District, and then got bounced out in the second round of region. So we know we want to get farther than West Springfield's ever been. I think West Springfield lacrosse, boys lacrosse, has never advanced past the second round. They've had a long history of lacrosse at our school. So our goal is to make it past that round and continue on, and I think the guys understand that the district's the first step, but we want to go beyond that as much as possible.
All right, well, Coach, thanks so much for joining us. We look forward to following your team throughout the remainder of the season.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
So obviously West Springfield just having a great season so far, but as Coach Sutter was saying, they've really got their eyes on the prize. They have goals that they're definitely looking at, looking to advance further than they've had the opportunity to go before. And I think a lot of people really think they've got a good shot at winning it all.
They're doing a good job right now. Clearly they are the best team in the Patriot District, and the Patriot District is the district, the big district this year in boys lacrosse, with a team like WT Woodson coming in. We've seen Annandale do very well. In West Springfield, they're at the top of the heap right now. So when they go on and play in the district tournament, into the region tournament, though it's kind of a trial by fire, they're playing in the best district, so they'll be ready to go.
Absolutely, and Lee has been the big surprise for everyone this year, and still will unveil our Triple Edge boys lacrosse rankings in just a little bit, but they have Andrew Sempf. We talked a little bit about him last week, such a dominant player, and has a couple players around him who really have been stepping up their game. A lot of times big players really raise people up to their level, and so what they might be able to do in that tournament is really an exciting thing to think about. But Paul, speaking of the Patriot District, we got an opportunity to see them. As you said, we got to see Woodson, Annandale. Let's show you some highlights of the Verizon Fios lacrosse game of the week. Here, Woodson squaring off against Annandale. Nathan Miller there with a pass over to Nick Lalonde, who would just end up having a huge day for the Adams.
Yeah, and Annandale started off real great, 3 straight goals to start this game. You see another one right here, just by Lalonde again. And it's just Annandale really started off hot here, and that offense was really going in the first quarter.
And here's Steve and Craig. Annandale, as you said, their offense has so many weapons. Craig putting a nice one in the back of the goal right there, but just so many offensive weapons. Their top 3 leading scorers from last year returning. And Woodson just had a little bit of trouble getting started in this one, but then just came roaring back.
Woodson with 5 consecutive goals. And I had an opportunity to talk with Bob Stevens for an article in the Fairfax County Times, and he said he doesn't get rallied at all when he lets a goal on something. He just focuses on what he could have done differently, takes a walk around the semicircle, and then he's back focusing on what he needs to do.
And here another nice move there by Nathan Miller, but nice defense from the goalkeeper, Brian Beatson, for Woodson, having to step up for his team, because obviously that hot-handed Annandale team really coming out strong.
Yeah, again, 5 consecutive goals, and that is the last goal they scored in that first half. And it was a goal that, when talking with Stevens, he thought he really needed to make that save. He only allowed 1 other goal after that one.
And then after that, of course, Annandale just going on a tear, and you're going to see some beautiful passing in some of these highlights that the Annandale team was able to do. Woodson still trying to fight and stay within this one, because it was such a very important game in the Patriot District for both of these two teams.
And Monica, we talked about it during the game, as this could be a very important new rivalry for the Patriot District. These teams are neighborhood rivals. These kids had grown up playing lacrosse together, so it's going to be a very nice rivalry in this district.
And I think a lot of people are really excited about that, and Woodson moving into the Patriot District. Of course, John Fitzgerald, here's some of that passing that we were talking about. Lalonde there with another big goal, and then here is Miller with a nice pass over to Lalonde, and then the big finish, Lalonde with the big finish. Number 10, Ryan Miller, also getting into the mix there, and then Miller putting one in the back of the cage. But Lalonde with 4 goals, having a huge day for his team. But they have so many weapons. It's not the same guy every single night. It might be Lalonde, it might be Craig, it might be the other Craig, it might be Miller. You just never know.
And one thing they didn't know heading into the season, Annandale knew they had a good offense, but their defense, because they graduated their top goalie, Matt Perez, and then bringing in Bob Stevens, he was a great defender for them. So bringing Stevens into the goal, it takes away a defender, and he has to kind of get acclimated to the varsity level. He said he did that very quickly, and the team has confidence in him. They have a very good freshman goalkeeper as well, but they decided to go with the senior leadership, and it's proven pretty good for Annandale right now.
And Annandale, certainly one of the teams that people are talking about right now that could make a run through the region tournament. There's some high expectations for that club with all those sophomores returning this year, that junior class, which is so strong and is no doubt going to be strong for years to come over Annandale. But we did actually get an opportunity to talk with our player of the game, Nick Lalonde, and Coach Bill McGlisco after this one was over.
It was great. It was great. It was great. It was great. Games I've been looking forward to all season. This in West Springfield, and we got the big win tonight. Feels good. Feels good.
You obviously had a great night on offense. What was your favorite goal, and take us through it?
Probably the last one when Nate Miller brought it down and gave a nice pass to Ryan, who got it to me, and it was just their great passing got me to get an open shot in the end.
And Coach Nick, talking about the passing, 3 of those goals in the late going created by great passing by your club.
Exactly. They did a good job of moving off ball. We told them if they got into passing lanes, they'd be open all night. And the guys worked hard in the 3rd and 4th quarter to get in those passing lanes. We were able to finish, which was great.
And obviously, I have to ask you about Bob Stevens, because people have been talking about him all year, and I certainly see why.
Yeah, no, they should be talking about him. He's a heck of a player. He's a leader, as any goalie usually is on a team. but great outlet passes. If he lets one in, he doesn't get to his head, and he just plays for the next play, and we're going to rally behind him and ride him as far as we can.
All right, great win tonight for the Adams.
All right, so once again, getting to talk a little bit about Bob Stevens, who we were so impressed with in that game, really looking great and very confident back there in the pipe. So I think going to be a huge asset for Annandale heading into the postseason.
Most definitely. If you have a hot goalie, then you're in good shape.
Let's take a look now at our Triple Edge Lacrosse boys rankings for this week, because there's been a little movement. And Paul, obviously the thing that really jumps out at you is Chantilly getting so much respect, but they're doing so well in their district right now. And a lot of people, we've talked about it several times on this program this season, but they had a lot of question marks beside Chantilly because a lot of their talent graduated. Of course, their dominant goalkeeper graduates, but there are two things that everybody knows about Chantilly boys lacrosse. First of all, they have a phenomenal feeder program. Every year, all those young kids coming in who have so much lacrosse experience. Second, they have a phenomenal coach in Kevin Broderick, and now that team is gelling a little bit, and I think people think that they're also a big contender, as shown by their respect jumping up this week from 7 to 3.
And we talk about the Patriot District. You see West Springfield right there on top, but you have Chantilly at number 3, and then you have Robinson at 5, Westfield at 6. So obviously the Concord's still in there, but the Patriot, West Springfield, Annandale we just talked about at 4, and WT Woodson, they were 9 last week, falling to 10 after the loss to the Adams.
And then another team to quickly touch on, of course, is Stonebridge jumping up. Of course, right before last week's rankings, they had that loss to Langley, one of the toughest teams in the area, another team that people have very high expectations coming off of their state championship last year. But that Stonebridge team is really stacked on offense with the Maltz brothers and such a great supporting cast. And then their goalkeeper, Jesse Southward, also having a great season so far. So that's another team that could cause some upsets, because right now they seem a little low on people's radar, being ranked around number 8 right now. But I'd certainly expect for Stonebridge to really finish up nicely at the end of the season.
Stonebridge just recently losing to Westfield 16 to 14. You mentioned the Maltz brothers, Dylan with 5 goals and 2 assists, Derek with 4 goals, Southward with 12 saves, and James Esser with 1 goal and 7 ground balls,
So obviously that was a big non-district matchup. Westfield having a great season as well, and Stonebridge playing a lot of tough competition, so that will certainly help them out, even though they did get the 2-goal loss in that one. And then another game that we want to highlight to you from around the area is, of course, the Broad Run Dominion game, because this was one that a lot of people had their eyes on coming into this one, because, of course, Dominion was on a 4-game winning streak. Broad Run was on a 3-game losing streak, and Broad Run coming out with the big win. And their strategy going into this one, Broad Run, was to try to hold the ball a little bit, possess the ball, not give Dominion a ton of opportunities, and it really worked well for them during the first quarter, only allowing, they scored a goal, didn't allow any. But then, of course, you have to expect Dominion comes roaring back. It was close the entire way through, and Broad Run getting a really big win there. Nice picture you see there, courtesy of our good friends at Viva Loudon. All right, well, Paul, let's talk a little bit now about how these district tournaments are shaping up. And to do that, we're delighted to be joined by our good friend Phil Palizzotti, assistant head coach over at Lake Braddock. Coach, can you hear us?
Oh, yeah, hear you well.
All right, well, thanks so much for joining us to talk a little bit about how the brackets could possibly be shaping up in each of the respective districts. Obviously, it's a little early to be making too many predictions, but just to talk a little bit about them. First, Coach, let's start off with the Concord district, because of course, that's been a powerhouse in the past few years. And so what are your thoughts about how the Concord district's shaping up heading into the tournament?
Well, right now, you've got Chantilly on top, Robinson, then Westfield, and probably Herndon, and then Oakton, and then Centerville. So, right now Chantilly's in the driver's seat for that number 1 seed.
And Coach, talk a little bit about, because obviously, different things go into how they do the seeding for the tournaments, but most important thing is your district play. And so talk a little bit about how they ultimately do those seeds at the end of the season to determine who goes where for those first round games.
Yeah, in the district tournament, they take the records within the district. So, right now Chantilly would be 4-0 in the district, so they would hold the number 1 seed. And then you go forward from there. And then to go into the regional tournament, you take the top 4 in each district. So whoever makes the semifinals of each district is the 4 teams that go forward into the region representing each particular district. Does that make sense?
It does.
Got
Phil,
it.
let's jump over to Liberty real quick, talking about the Liberty district. Langley, defending state champs, they're at number 1. Stonebridge, we expected that as well. Madison, they're at number 4. But South Lakes, can you talk about South Lakes a little bit? That's a bit of a surprise to me. 3-1 the district right now, 5-3 overall.
Yeah, South Lakes is playing some good lacrosse right now. You know, the one thing that they have to look at is they have not played Langley yet, and they have not played Madison. They've got 3 games all in the district coming up that are remaining. So that's going to determine where they eventually end up. You know, they're 3-1 within the district right now. So, you know, they've got a good chance of getting a 2 or 3 seed if they can pull an upset with either Langley or Madison. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out.
And with Langley, is there a team that can beat them in this district? Is Madison the best chance to beat a Langley in the Liberty?
Yeah, you know, looking at it, I think Stonebridge can give Langley a run for the money. I mean, you know, they're going to put some goals on the board, and if Langley has an off night, I know last week Coach Brewer and Monica and myself chatted about shooting. And if Langley has an off night shooting and Stonebridge is on, that could be a long night maybe. And then Madison, Madison's definitely got a shot. They play, you know, an up-tempo game as well. They've got a couple kids that are outstanding offensive players, and they play a good, stubborn defense. So there's a couple potential upsets, you know, that could come into play.
Absolutely. And then, Coach, let's move on to the Patriot District, obviously a district you're very familiar with, and take a look at that because, of course, we just talked with Coach Scott Setter from over at West Springfield about his team, but just about how stacked the Patriot District is this year. And I don't know if people really knew that coming into the season, that people were thinking about all the talent in the Patriot District, but it's really shaping up to be one of the more exciting districts. And so what are your thoughts about how that one's shaking out at this point?
Yeah, you know, unfortunately, we were on the losing end of a couple games recently. So, you know, we're as far as Lake Braddock goes, you know, we're looking at the number 6 seed, and then, you know, the 5 teams in front of us right now. You know, you've got South County, Woodson, Annandale, Lee, West Springfield, and all those teams can score some goals, and all those teams are playing great defense. You know, it's our game with Lee on Monday night. It was a 4-3 game. You know, we held Andrew Semp to 2 goals, but yet we couldn't score because their defense was so good, and that was very unexpected. I mean, you know, nobody would have expected Lee to keep a team. You know, I'm not saying Lake Braddock is great offensively, but for them to hold us to 3 goals, that's a pretty great effort on their part. And you know, it's going to be interesting to see how that one plays out also, because Lee has to still yet play West Springfield and W.T. Woodson. So, you know, that there's potential there for an upset or 2. So you just don't know.
That's one thing I've noticed when talking with Bill McGlisco over Annandale. He said the same thing, how good Lee's defense is, how good Woodson's defense is. We just talked about how good West Springfield's defense is. Is that why the power base right now is in the Patriot District, because of these defenses?
You know, that's interesting, Paul. I'd have to say that, you know, I think it's a combination, because if you look at West Springfield, Lee, Annandale, you know, those 3 teams can score a heck of a lot of goals. So I think that's what makes them so dangerous going forward, because they can play good defense as well. So if they get into that deliberate type game or that slow down game, they can play it. Whereas, you know, a lot of different teams, they have one identity and one identity only, where either they're a great defensive team or they're a great offensive team. And typically it's not both. So that's what's making it very interesting moving forward.
Well, and I think it is a good point because so many people coming into the season, I think almost discountedly because they felt that Andrew Semp is a standout player, but they didn't know all the talent that he has surrounding him. And Paul and I were just talking about the fact that sometimes when you do have such a talented player, he can raise up a lot of people on the team as well, and they start playing up to that level. But regardless, whatever it is, obviously great coaching over there as well. But they really are a team that I think could surprise some people, create some upsets, and just an exciting team to watch.
Yeah, no, most definitely, Monica, and I think the coaching has to be commended. They are a team that nobody was really taking, very seriously, and then, with the complementary players that they do have, Gallagher on defense, number 14, he's big, he's strong, he's fast, and again, last week we talked a lot about being athletic, and he is an athletic player, and then their goalie was fantastic against us. So you just don't know.
It's really easy to illustrate how good the Patriot District is just talking with coaches before the season. Your team, like the Bruins, they're a very good team. So what do you think you guys have to do to start moving up in the rankings? Because it's such a tough district. That's why your record shows how it is. But this is a good team you have.
Yeah, we do have a good team, and I think we're still trying to create an identity, Paul. Offensively, losing Dennis Stewart last year, at the beginning of the year, in September, and not having him is hurting us a little bit because, my forte, quite frankly, is defense. And now, I'm trying to run the offense, and we're implementing some different things that the kids haven't been used to. And, we talked to the kids yesterday, matter of fact, after the league game, and we told them, said, look, we're still trying to figure out and still learning. So hopefully, by the time the playoffs come around, we can, finally put it all together offensively as well as defensively. So we're still plugging along. We're gonna give teams fits. I can promise you that. I don't know if we'll win, but we're gonna play hard and we're gonna give teams fits.
Well, and Coach, let's talk lastly a little bit about the National District because certainly don't get as much attention, I think, as they deserve, but really some great lacrosse being played over in the National District. And just taking a look at the standings right now, obviously Yorktown 4-0 and then Washington Lee at 3-1, so two of the top teams over in the National District. But what are your thoughts about this district and what we're seeing so far in the National?
Well, Yorktown, over the past several years have been very, very difficult. And when they get into the regional tournament, they're a tough out. So it doesn't surprise me right now that they're playing good lacrosse. Even though they're 6-5, you got to look at who they've lost to. They've lost to, Chantilly, to Westfield, to a couple private schools, Christian Brothers and Lake Mary. So, and then Bishop O'Connell. So, they're a team that's going to be very tough once they get into the regional tournament, if, of course, they do get there, but I think they will. And then they've got a couple games left within their district. They've got Wakefield, Mount Vernon, and Hayfield. So anything can happen there, but they should be the favorites with Washington and Lee coming out of that district. And then Washington and Lee is definitely a surprise. I mean, they only lost to Yorktown 8-5, so they're going to be tough as well. They've got 3 remaining games left, if I'm not mistaken, with Edison, Wakefield, and Falls Church. So they've got all district games left, and anything can happen there. But it'll be interesting for sure.
All right. Well, obviously, we're going to continue to watch how these district tournaments shape up. But Coach, thanks so much for joining us.
You're welcome.
All right.
Lost him there. He was going to say something else. Sorry, Phil.
Oh, well. Hopefully we can fit that in on the next show. But anyway, so obviously lots of good lacrosse on the boys' side of things. But now let's segue into our Triple Edge girls lacrosse report and take a look at our coaches poll right now, our Triple Edge girls lacrosse rankings, because a little bit of a shift in the first place position, Madison getting 9 votes. This week, Oakton getting 6, and of course last week those number 1 first place votes were dispersed a little more, things getting a bit more settled this week, but obviously the 2 teams at the top of the charts, Madison and Oakton, no surprise.
Yeah, teams from Vienna, they're always good. Madison, unfortunately I can't talk much about them because I haven't had an opportunity to to speak with their coach. But a good team right now, 144 points. Oakton right there. I mean, yeah, as we've seen for the last couple of years, that the power right is in Vienna with these girls lacrosse teams.
Absolutely, but then some of these other teams that are just consistently in the mix, of course, Stonebridge, we talk about them a lot, but just like the boys team, they have so much offensive firepower, so they're very, very dangerous. Westfield, of course, people certainly have their eyes on them, and then Robinson, you know, down at number 10 right now, but great coach over there, and obviously a lot of talent, so also a team that could surprise some people. Wouldn't be shocked if they jump up the rankings a little bit more as the season progresses.
It's interesting, a lot of the same teams we saw on the boys polls, on the girls poll as well, and that's just, you know, these schools have these great lacrosse programs. You just look at a school like Madison, you see Langley, Stonebridge, Westfield, Robinson, Woodson, Annandale, a lot of the same schools on the list.
All right, well, let's take a look now at some highlights from a non-district matchup this week between Robinson and Loudoun Valley. These two teams squaring off. Of course, Loudoun Valley, a very, very strong team. Anytime any of the Northern Region teams square off against them, it's always an exciting game. And, of course, Robinson's goalkeeper, Kelsey Zink, really big standout for Robinson, just having a tough day in the cage against this very dominant Loudoun Valley team.
Well, Zink just didn't get much help. A lot of free position opportunities for Loudoun Valley, a lot of wide open shots for Valley as well. That's Kelsey Luck, the Loudoun Valley goalkeeper. She had a great game, and this game was getting ugly quickly. Robinson did rebound in the second half, but yeah, Loudoun Valley, their offense just overpowering Robinson.
Pre-position shot there for Robinson, but nice save by the goalkeeper, as you said, Kelsey Luck there on the save. And then on the other side of things, nice save there by Kelsey Zink.
Yeah, that's Sophie Swan. She led Loudoun Valley in goals in that game. And again, this game did look like it was getting out of control, but Robinson does come back and makes it somewhat respectable, getting 5 goals in that second half, and that was the first.
And so a couple more highlights here just to show you with Robinson getting a little going on their offensive attack. Nice spin move there, planting one in the back of the cage, and then a bounce shot past the goalkeeper.
Should be noted that Robinson head coach Allison Noon was not on the sideline. She's on maternity leave. The assistant coaches were there to take over for her. But, you know, it's out of region game, Loudoun Valley in the Cedar Run district, out of the Northwest region. Robinson obviously in the Concord district, so no panic button pushing, because Loudoun Valley is a very, very, very good team.
Well, and a lot of coaches like to play those games as well because it really gives you a good sense of where you are at this stage of the season. And so certainly helping Robinson see to where they want to be and a good opportunity for them. And then, of course, Loudoun Valley also squaring off against Oakton, another Concord district team, and Oakton keeping it close but getting the 5-goal loss. And Kelsey Luck, I mean, a big reason for Loudoun Valley's success, 19 saves against the Oakton Cougars, who are a very offensive-minded team. So really tells you a lot about Kelsey Luck looking at that statistic.
And it shows how good Loudoun Valley is. We just showed you Oakton, number 2 in our Northern Region lacrosse rankings. So the Vikings, a 5-goal win over our number 2 team. They're a very strong team.
And obviously, Loudoun Valley very happy to have Luck back. She transferred over to Bishop Ireton for 1 semester, then came back over to Loudoun Valley and has been doing very good work for them in the pipes this season. All right, now let's take a look at another big non-district matchup that took place this week. 2 of the top teams from around this area, Stonebridge squaring off against Westfield. And there's that offense, Paul, that we were talking about. Kayla Sleece getting 5 goals and 2 assists for the Stonebridge Bulldogs to lead all the Stonebridge Bulldogs in point scoring.
Yeah, just a great job by Stonebridge. You talked about how potent their offense is, and you see it right there with Sleece and Lauren Gusti. They're, 10 goals between the two players there.
And, every time I look at the statistics for Stonebridge, they have a balanced offense. Lots of players getting into the scoring column, a couple of players contributing 1 goal, 2 goals here and there, which really makes a difference to have an offense that defenses have to respect everyone. And obviously when defenses start focusing on players like Kayla Sleece, Lauren Gusti, then the defenses back off a little bit on some other players, and when they can bury it in the back of the net, does good things for the Bulldogs. All right, now let's talk a little bit about a Liberty District game that just took place this week. The Langley Saxons getting a big win over fellow district team Thomas Jefferson 15-5. And Margot Swanley, the sophomore, perfect on the day. 5 of 5 shooting, 5 goals for Margot.
McGarry with 5 goals and 2 assists, a great win for Langley in the Liberty District.
And obviously that's one team, when you have teams like Madison, people talking about Stonebridge, Langley not getting as much, it seems like, talk around the region this year, but a very dangerous team as well. So that's going to be a very interesting district to watch how it shapes up. And speaking of how those districts are going to shape up, just like we did for the boys, let's take a look at where each of the districts stand right now to see how things are shaping up. And no surprise, Oakton undefeated so far in the Concord.
Yeah, 3-0, perfect district record. Chantilly right there at 2-1. So is Westfield. Those are the 3 teams we expected to be right there. Robinson's still a good team, 1-2, 2-4 overall.
All right, now let's take a look at that Liberty District we were just talking about, because obviously Madison not only undefeated in the district, undefeated on the season so far, one of the reasons they're getting so much respect in the coaches poll, but Langley and Stonebridge are right there knocking on the door.
Yeah, and look at Jefferson there at 5-2, and McLean at 1-3, 3-6. We'll have more on McLean later in this show, but you know, a very strong district on the girls' side as well as the boys' side in the Liberty District.
Now moving on to the Patriot District. Obviously, we just talked about how the boys' Patriot District right now is just a very tough place to be. And no surprise, also on the girls' side, West Springfield undefeated in the district, 5-2 overall, but the same teams, Annandale, Woodson, knocking on the door. And then, of course, South County at 2-2. They're a dangerous team. We had a couple of their players on the program last week, and that's a team that you can't count them out of anything. A very strong team, very well coached, and so certainly another one to keep a watch out for.
Yeah, only 2 teams below 500 in this large 8-team district, so a great district on the girls' side.
All right, now let's finally take a look at the National District. Yorktown, same with the boys, undefeated in the district, as is Hayfield right now, the new addition to the National District this season.
I'd assume Yorktown and Hayfield are going to play each other soon because they both have perfect district records, so that would be a good game to watch.
All right, well, as Paul promised, we have more on the McLean girls lacrosse team now, because this week I was joined in the Players Lounge by one of McLean's standouts. Welcome to the Players Lounge. This week I am delighted to be joined by McLean's standout goalkeeper, Hannah Longwell, who set a very big record in her career last night with McLean getting your 500th save against Madison. So what did it feel like to finally get that milestone?
It felt great because I've been working towards it for a really long time. I had that goal set at the beginning of the season, and it just like I knew I had 499 going into this game, and that first goal it was the greatest feeling ever, and I'm just looking forward to setting some more goals to achieve by the end of the season. And
you didn't just get one save last night. You actually got about 30 saves, I understand. So you really got to work out back in the goal. So talk a little bit about that game. Obviously, Madison is one of the top teams in the area. They're ranked #1 in our coaches poll. So what did you think your team did well, and what do you think you could improve on?
I think going into the game, the first 8 minutes were great. Our team was really on fire, and we were pumped up to going into that. And we just played a great first 8 minutes, and we slipped up a little bit after that, but we tried to keep the team motivated. But I think we did a really good job, at the beginning, taking shots, and our defense looked great. My low D had a couple saves for me right in front of the goal. But I think I think we had a little bit of trouble with transitions, and I think we could have gotten our clears off a little bit better getting open, but I think we had a pretty good game overall, and we can improve for our next game against Fairfax.
Now, going up against a team like Madison, obviously they have a lot of offense. Did you have a particular strategy back in the goal, or is it more that you just take the shots as they come?
I tried to play a little bit more like a defensive player because there were some girls open. They did a really good job of cutting, getting open right in front of the goal. I had a couple interceptions, just trying to get out there and keep as little shots right on the goal as I could coming at me. And just tried to play my game, not get too psyched out about it, and focus on my technique, and that was really helpful. I think that I got some good saves off of just like basic technique and keeping, just doing all of that.
Now, when people talk about lacrosse in this area, there's been a big focus on the Concord district lately with the state championships that they've won. But the Liberty district is a very tough district to play in. You have Stonebridge, you have Madison. Can you talk a little bit about what it's been like as that district has been evolving over the past few years to play in the Liberty district?
Well, I do love a challenge, and all 4 years at McLean, I've had a really big challenge against these teams, having like 40 to 50 shots on me each game, and it's really good practice. Definitely helping me get better, and it's great to have great shooters out there like Lauren Giusti. She's on my club team. It's really fun to play them and just have really good shots on me. It's a good challenge.
Now, you're a leader on the team. Obviously, you're the goalkeeper, so you're directing traffic, but you're also a senior on this team. So can you talk a little bit about how you view your leadership role and helping some of the younger players acclimate to playing varsity lacrosse?
Well, there are 4 captains on the team. 2 of us are seniors, and we just try to make good pointers to the girls in practice, and we try to help them out. Sometimes I'll go in a little bit early to practice and do shots with the girls just so that they can work on like trick moves and things like that. But just like staying positive is really key, and helping with the girls' techniques.
Now I want to give you a little bit of an opportunity to give some shout outs to some of your teammates. Obviously you were just talking about your low D playing against Madison, really having a good game, but can you talk a little bit about some of the players that you feel like have really stepped up their game this year?
Actually, some of our younger players like Mackenzie May and Rummer are doing a great job. Rummer's had a lot of goals this season. I think it's 22, and she's ranked 33rd, I think, in our area. But she's just really feisty and like scrappy, and she's little, but she makes up for it by being fast. And Mackenzie's doing a great job. She also has really good shots. Just in practice today, I was like amazed at them going right in the corners. And Sarah Park, one of our defenders, is also doing a great job. She was one of the ones who'd had some saves for me, just stuffing the girls right in front of the crease. And Hannah Kirby's doing a really great job. She's really improved this season.
Now, you alluded to this upcoming game against Fairfax. You have 2 more Liberty District games, and then you go into the district tournament. Can you talk a little bit about what your goals are for the rest of the season and things you guys are working on as a team?
I think that we're really working on getting our transitions down and just getting quick transitions, and faking the goalie out is going to be really important. And our next game's Friday. It's our senior night, so we're hoping to win that. And we've just been working really hard in practice and hope that it pays off in the game.
Now, speaking of senior night, we've already talked about one of the big highlights of your career, obviously getting that 500th save, but you've had so many. So I was just curious, what are some of the other things you would rank up there as some of the top highlights of your career as the McLean goalkeeper?
I was definitely really excited. I got goalkeeper of the year last year and first team all district all 4 years at McLean. And I got first team all region last year. I'm hoping to get that again. I also got MVP my sophomore year. And I'm just really hoping that I do well this year and get some good accolades.
Now, of course, your career is not over when you leave McLean. You're heading off to Colgate. So talk a little bit about your decision to go there.
It was a really stressful process, and it was very hard sending out emails, tournament schedules, and just communicating with the coaches. But I think like all that hard work I put in definitely paid off, and I'm just really happy with the end result. Excited to go there next year.
Are there particular things you've been working on to prepare to get you ready for that next level?
Yes, I've been working with my goalie trainer, Adam Norton, just trying to get my technique really strong and just getting like fast and getting low on the ground balls. I'm trying to work on that a lot, and just getting like faster and better and stronger, getting my clears farther, just things like that.
And last question for you. Obviously, as a goalkeeper, you're used to the pressure of playing back there. What advice would you give to young goalkeepers who are just starting out?
I think just to really get like a love for the game is important, and that's what drives someone if they want to go far in lacrosse. And I also think the mental aspect's really important. Like if a goal goes in, not to get like upset or angry about it, like hit the post, but just to like think about what you did, and then whenever a goal goes in on me, I make the save over, and then I kind of like clear it from my mind, knowing that that's like the correct way I should have done it. But just like working hard at it and making sure you don't like stress out about it too much. Just make sure you're always having fun when you play the game.
All right, well, great advice from one of the best goalkeepers from around this area. Hannah, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so again, can't reiterate it enough what a phenomenal milestone that Hannah Longwell reached on Tuesday night against Madison with that 500th save. And then, as we said during the interview, 30 saves on the night for Hannah. So just a phenomenal goalkeeper.
Yeah, great effort, 30 saves. It's a lot of saves.
All right, well, speaking of saves, let's segue now into our boys soccer segment because two big matchups taking place at Stonebridge High School last Friday in a doubleheader. First, the Stonebridge boys squared off against the Robinson boys, the two top teams in the region, a lot of people think. And this was a close one, almost a scoreless game except for the one that made the difference. So let's take a look at a couple of these highlights. Because, of course, Stonebridge, they had the wind with them during the first half of the game. You get a nice look there at Gunnar Bedford, goalkeeper for Robinson. Nice save there for Bedford.
And Bedford, he's been injured, so he's just starting out. And Jack Scala told me that he put Bedford in the first half just to get some more playing time, some more experience. Matt Hill came in the second half. It's not because Bedford played bad or anything. It's just getting both the goalkeepers' experience in a non-conference game.
And so here, of course, you see Michael Herndon, number 19 for the Bulldogs, one of their standout players. Nice opportunity there, but goes wide for the Bulldogs. And then Robinson trying to get something going.
Yeah, and the field, and Monica, as we mentioned, the field looks a little choppy, a little messed up still from that extended football season in the fall, and Abdul Shaban gets the game-winning goal for the Bulldogs. It should be noted that Ronnie Shaban, Abdul's older brother, he had the game-winning goal against Robinson 2 years ago in the Northern Region Final. A little nugget there that I found out while doing the story on this game.
All right, and of course that one goal on a penalty kick, so a lot of people thought that call might have been a little controversial, called on the goalkeeper. Shaban nailed it. He said after the game he thought he might have placed it a little too high, or at least he hadn't expected it to go that high, but regardless got the goal for Stonebridge. And I did get to speak with him and head coach Randy May after the game.
I'm standing here with our player of the game, Abdul Shaban, and head coach Randy May. Abdul, there was a lot of hype surrounding this game. How does it feel to get the big win over Robinson?
You know, it's huge. This was honestly the first game I circled when we got our schedule out because we knew this was going to be a big one. It's a rematch of the regional finals 2 years ago, and it's always fun when we go out and play them. They're a great team.
Obviously, you have the game winner. Tell me what was going through your mind when you were taking the penalty kick.
Well, I just had to keep myself calm. I knew I could slot it in the corner, and I didn't mean to go so high, but, we'll take it.
Well, speaking of that, was the weather at all a factor with the wind and then the rain? Did that at all impact the play?
It definitely did in the second half because they were coming at us with all they got because they wanted to get their goal back. We were going against the wind, so we struggled getting the ball out of our half, and we had to definitely deal with that. It was a challenge for us.
Now, Coach, obviously you went into halftime with the 1-goal lead. Can you talk about what you told your team at the half?
Well, I came out of the first half feeling that we had 3 or 4 other chances we just didn't capitalize on. And I told the boys, I said it could be sitting here 3-0, and it's a whole different way to manage the game. 1-0, and we've been as has before, and everybody knows you got to get after it. We try to break into 4 10-minute segments. We went through those 4 10-minute segments and just kept doing our job defensively because they came out and really possessed the ball a little bit more in the second half. Their 3-5-2 really worked much more effectively in the second half than in the first half. But after about 10 or 15 minutes, I felt that we kind of weathered the storm and kind of evened the game out. It wasn't the prettiest game. Everybody's going for the long one or the throw-in, so it wasn't, from a possession standpoint, it wasn't a wow, but we'll take the W.
And other than the composure, what were you most pleased with?
Well, the fact that this is our 3rd game this week, and Robinson, no disrespect, it's not their fault. They didn't have a game all week. So I just felt, like the fitness we're going to find out about our fitness base. And Abdul's been tripping at me all year long about, Coach, we can't go out too early in the preseason and start getting fit. But I'm like, it showed that we had to do a little bit more. We did a little bit more early in the season, and it really paid off here towards the end. Because 3 games in 1 week, I know a lot of guys really, just trying to get through. I know Abdul is probably, he's going to enjoy the weekend off, I'm sure.
Coach.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right, so that one was a battle between 2 of the top teams in the Northern Region. One of the top teams in the Dulles District is Broad Run. They are really having a sensational season so far. You see getting the better of Heritage there with that win. And of course, Danny Radigy having a phenomenal season so far for Broad Run. 5 goals, 6 assists to his credit, has a lot of a supporting cast around him. And so really a team that a lot of people have high expectations for.
They're missing 5 starters as well, so a huge win for them.
Absolutely. And then, of course, another one that we want to talk to you about, the Broad Run Freedom game. Broad Run really getting a dominant win there, 5-2 over Freedom. And you see there just the distribution amongst the players. 2 goals for Taylor Johnson, but lots of players getting into the action. And, of course, not even on the list, Paul Ellington, their throw specialist, who we had some highlights of last week on the program, that just adds another dimension to that team.
We just saw the highlights from the Stonebridge Robinson. Not a lot of goal scoring. Broad Run scored 3 goals in the first 7 minutes of this game.
All right, now finally, let's talk a little bit about a Herndon team that a lot of people have some high expectations for, because obviously they were missing their standout player during the early goings of the season, E.K. Corva, but he is back, and since he's been back, some big wins, including over Westfield.
Yeah, Corva, a dynamic young goal scorer for Herndon, who has a first-year head coach as well, and they're getting things, and they did tie George Mason early on, lost to South County, but then they beat Westfield, huge win, beat Wakefield by a large margin, then tied Fairfax. So it's a team that's it's taking a while for them to get things used, new head coach and all that, and missing their leading scorer, but now things are starting to take off for the Hornets.
All right, well, let's segue now into our girls soccer segment, because as I said, 2 big games going on out in Loudon this past Friday, the Stonebridge Robinson doubleheader. So now we have some highlights from this girls game, which is a very exciting matchup. And Paul, it was shocking how similar it was to the boys game. Of course, the weather also causing problems in this one, but this one 0-0 for a lot of the way as well. And of course, Robinson, one of those teams from around the area that's been hit by the injuries. Their starting goalkeeper, Charlotte Owens, out for the season. And so backup goalkeeper Janine Milletta, who volunteered to step into the goal for her team, nice look there at Milletta, really came up nicely in this game for her team. Another nice save there for Milletta.
Yeah, Robinson's a team with so much talent that just hasn't been able to put it together for some reason. They're such a talented team, and they're going to get it together, but it just didn't happen in this game.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they do have a lot of talent. That's something a lot of people talk about when you have Allie Heck, one of the best defenders from around the region. Of course, they have Jensen Smith, Audrey Barry, 2 of the track stars, so fast. Barb Plattenberg, one of the most respected offensive players in the sophomore class this year. But this Stonebridge team, a young team, their only goal also scored on a penalty kick, a bit of a questionable call. Emily Fredrickson getting the penalty kick for the girls. But as I was saying, a young team for Stonebridge, and really gave Joan Windows an opportunity to have some of her younger players play, because she was missing 2 of her senior midfielders for that one, and they stepped up nicely. But I did get a chance to also talk with Coach Windows and Emily Fredrickson after the game.
Emily, obviously a great game. Robinson, one of the top teams in this area. Of course, both of you guys closely ranked. How does it feel to get the win?
It's so nice. Like, we got knocked out by them last year, so it's nice to finally beat them. And this is the first time I've ever beat them that was my high school career.
And obviously, you had the game winner. Take me through what you were thinking when you were taking the penalty kick.
You get really scared and you get kind of like shaky, but you just have to like take a deep breath and like just pass it to the corner. That's all you have. Like, just calm down and pass it to the corner.
And obviously the weather conditions, it was raining for a bit of the game. Can you talk a little bit about how that impacted the game tonight?
I didn't even really notice it when you were playing. You're just so focused that you don't like notice what's happening. But you could tell because like the ball was skipping around more and you have to like adjust. So.
Now, Coach, obviously a huge win for your team. What were you most pleased with tonight?
That the girls never gave up. We are missing our 2 center midfields, Megan and Jennifer, and the girls went out there and they played like they were champions, like they could go do it, and they proved it on the field. They won every 50-50 ball that they could. They never gave up, and they kept talking and communicating, and I'm just really proud of them.
Now, 2 players that I was just really impressed with, particularly on defense, were both of the Irvins. Can you talk a little bit about their play tonight?
Well, they're both very aggressive and fast, and they're quick, and they really help us on defense, especially Jazzy, because not only is she good defensively, but she can make that offensive run up the middle or down the line. So she's dangerous both offensively and defensively. And Amani on the side is great. She's aggressive. She's got a great throw, if you haven't noticed. And, she's really stepping up this year. So we're excited about both of them.
All right, so the Stonebridge Bulldogs getting a big win here tonight.
All right, so again, Stonebridge and Robinson, two of the top girls teams in the area, squaring off Stonebridge, getting the 1-goal win. Well, let's segue now and talk a little bit about outdoor track. Haven't talked as much about it this season, but obviously a really big meet going on this past week over at Lake Braddock, the Hall of Fame Invitational. And Paul, no surprise here about some of the names on the list, the standouts from cross country, and then of course indoor track, some of them making the list here.
You see the cross country girls, Paige Cartoonis wins the 1 mile. Sophie Chase wins this 2 mile. I'll get back to Chase in a second. Maya Hicks wins the 800. Jeannie Marie McCant wins the 400. These are things that we expected. And Megan Baumgartner, again with Lake Braddock, winning the 100 hurdles. She's a great hurdler. And then you have Katie Bandon winning the pole vault. Nina Ullman, they were both tied to win the pole vault. Tania Ermick from Thomas Jefferson, Christina Brown and Chioma from Robinson winning the shot put. But Sophie Chase, she was going against Ariel Carabinas from Osborne Park. I covered Carabinas last year when I was in Prince William County. She's a senior. Such a great distance runner, an amazing distance runner. Here comes Sophie Chase, as we've talked about before. She's been a guest on the show, a freshman, getting it done. So she still continues in her outdoor season, her first big race of this outdoor season, picks up a W over one of the best runners in Northern Virginia.
But of course, Osborne Park getting the win at the meet, Lake Braddock finishing second in that one. But let's take a look now at some of the boys' results, because also some familiar names on the list. No shock that Adrian Vaughn picking up right where he left off for South Lakes.
And Nabil Mezher from Fairfax, he got second place to David Ladd, his teammate in the 100 at the indoor track meet. He wins. David Ladd gets third at this meet. Adrian Vaughn getting from South Lakes and Sean Price. Again, wish we could talk more about South Lakes, but the coach hasn't gotten back to me. Matt Hooglin from Lake Braddock wins the pole vault, so it's not just the girls for Lake Braddock. The boys are also doing well. High jump, Joey Muzio from Robinson. Clive Cameron from Mount Vernon wins the 300 hurdles. Kirk Nguyen from HN wins the discus, thank you, from Herndon. And Matthew Wren, FC Falls Church, yeah?
Yep.
All right, shot put. He wins a shot put.
Sorry that my abbreviations are a little
That's
tough
all right.
there
That's all
to
right.
handle. But all right, well, another thing that we do want to highlight before we go is a big regatta coming up this weekend on the Potomac, the Charlie Butt Regatta, one of the big ones of the season. It's really a crucial, important meet coming up. And so that kicks off 7 a.m. on the Potomac. Some of the teams got an opportunity to compete last weekend on the Potomac. It can have some choppy waters, so good to have a little bit of an opportunity to acclimate a little bit. But again, so if you're free on Saturday, that's a great event,
Yeah.
going on from around the region. Well, before we go, once again, we want to thank the folks that help make our program possible. First of all, our good friends at CCI Screen Printing. And then, of course, Craig Strabutzel and Dan Sousa for all the content they provide. Our good friends over at Triple Edge Lacrosse for your endless summer of lacrosse. You can get copies of this program at PressBoxVideo.com, and you can check out our webpage at www.fairfaxsportsnetwork.com. Become a fan of the Fairfax Sports Network on our Facebook page and send us any comments, suggestions, or story ideas you have. Well, thanks so much for joining us. We're off next week. We'll see you in a couple of weeks.